Started in the chat. Let us know if you're already working in tech or transitioning into tech and where you are joining us from.
I'm excited about this because even at the conference, the tech conference that I was just at, the majority of the conversations that I was having with people that were coming up to me saying that they're transitioning in the industry, or even people who've been in the industry, but they've been in before the market started to basically the market changed around 2021, 2022, especially. And so they're back out there in search and they're like, man. And so most of the conversations I was having with people were around this very topic.
Yeah, it's definitely changed a little bit. I'm definitely looking forward to sharing with some of our job seekers here about how they can reintegrate into job search or get started in job search and kind of boost themselves in the market for sure. So welcome. I see everybody coming in here. We're ready to get started in just a couple minutes. We're just going to allow for some people to join us. If you want to go ahead and share in the chat if you are transitioning into tech or if you're already working in tech and where you're joining us from. I see we have quite a large group joining us from all over, it looks like. So thank you so much for being with us here tonight.
We got somebody in Panama City. I might be in Panama in about a week or a week and a half. So let me know.
Have you been before?
No, it'll be my first time.
Nice.
People from the UK.
We have quite a few from Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, I see a bunch from Florida and Atlanta. Yeah, I just flew into Atlanta, y'all. Those of y'all that are here. I just came from Florida from the tech conference.
We have a lot of transitioning.
Oh, someone said they were talking about Panama City, Florida. That's hilarious. I did not even know that there was a Panama City, Florida.
There
Interesting.
is a Panama City, Florida.
I did not know that. Interesting. I was a little shocked. I was like, man, somebody from Panama is tuning in. I was like,
That'd be the surprise of the night, huh? Transitioning from tech from a high school teacher. Oh, I know who that is. Hey, Alex. Thanks for joining us tonight. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So we are going to be your host tonight. I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Cyrus for him to introduce himself.
yeah. So my name is Cyrus Harbin. I'm the founder of Tech is the New Black. We are the largest or one of the largest tech career podcasts that are out there. I've heard there might be some others, but I've yet to see them. Nevertheless, we are arguably the largest tech career podcast in the world. Also a RPA developer, formerly was a sales engineer. Yeah, so I used to be at Octoply AI. Now I'm at a couple other companies. Not gonna get too much into that, but some good companies. That's all I'll say. Yeah, and as y'all can see here, I've been helping thousands of people get into the tech industry via a lot of the free education information I've given, but primarily through collaboration with programs like yellowtail.tech, who's of course here and hosting this. So I help people in a variety of different ways, whether people are, whether people are already in the tech industry, if they want to scale further, or people who are looking to break into the industry on how they can leverage either their transferable skills, domain expertise, or perfect job search strategy like this to be able to break into tech or scale into the industry.
All right, thank you so much for that introduction, Cyrus. My name is Courtney Matiska. I am the career success lead at Yellowtail.tech. I specialize in resume optimization, interview prep, and also assist students with LinkedIn, networking, and job search as well. I have over 5 years of experience working as a career coach. I've worked with training and professional development. and in higher education for a long time now. So I'm very adjusted to those of you who are transitioning in careers. I know it's a big change. So we're here to help you. We're here to give you some tips on where to get started in your transition. So Cyrus, tell me more about LinkedIn optimization. What is it and why is it important for job seekers?
Yeah, so LinkedIn optimization is a necessity in the industry today. Essentially, LinkedIn optimization it's really two parts or two sides of it. One of it is your branding, like you branding yourself on LinkedIn. Who are you, career-wise, knowledge-wise, things like that. And then the other part is what information are you putting out there, which of course is still an extension of your brand, but that's really more so a way for you to actually attract a lot of hiring opportunities and overall make yourself look better even to the organization that you're already working in. So again, LinkedIn optimization, two different sides of the coin, both very important. I've seen people that are killing it at one, but not both. And because of that, they're not even getting like the full benefits of the results that they could get.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that overview. So, diving a little bit deeper into LinkedIn optimization, where should job seekers start with it?
Yeah, so I would say start top to bottom. So first off, just actually setting up your profile. Just simply put, what does your profile look like at the end of the day? Because whether or not people are coming and checking on your profile, whether or not you're putting information out there that's showing that you are an expert, even if you're not an expert, but showing that you're knowledgeable in your field, either way, when it comes to you getting opportunities, a lot of it, the thing that makes or breaks that ultimately usually is what your LinkedIn looks like. So first off, literally just going from the very top. What does your banner look like at the very top? Some people just like to have something that's cute or something that just has like some type of technology look to it, which is better than nothing. But realistically, at the very top, you want to brand yourself as to who you are and what you want to do. So if you are a cloud engineer or if you're a Linux administrator, it's best for you to have something up there that brands you as that. So at the very beginning, recruiter, hiring manager, whoever, from the very top, they know, okay, this person is this thing. Now, of course, everything else as you flow through your LinkedIn, it needs to reflect that. It shouldn't contradict that at all. So it's almost as if someone says that they are, that they're from like that they're from Colombia, and they say that they're from Colombia, or they say that they're Colombian and they were born and raised in Colombia. Usually the first thing you're going to notice is, okay, what do you like? What do you look like? Do you look like a person who might have been born and raised in Colombia? Okay, next thing is when they hear you talk. If you have a Southern country belle accent from Texas, they're gonna be like, you don't sound like that. And then when they look at your preferred music, or they look at how you like to dance, or your clothing style, and they see the rest of your family, all of it needs to look top to bottom like it just reconfirms, reinforces who you say you are top to bottom. And so ultimately, even when a lot of recruiters or hiring managers are looking through your LinkedIn, they just want to see that consistency. They want to see, okay, are you legitimately who you're presenting yourself to be? Or are you kind of like trying to phone it in a little bit? So everything
Right.
top to bottom from your even your subheader, right under, right next to your name when it says, okay, like Cyrus, mine will say like RPA developer. It'll list other things that are similar within that role or that niche. So that's always a really good thing to do. One thing I want to highlight, I want to kind of clarify a little bit. So we talk about the importance of branding yourself as like an expert in that field, or someone who's at least very knowledgeable in that field. The other part of that is you also want to brand yourself as someone who is likable, a culture fit, someone who's not a stick in the mud, who's not boring. Because generally speaking, the tech industry and many industries are starting to make this transition as well. They are leaving old school type of corporate behind, where everyone is just kind of robotic, the suits and the ties and all of those things. And it is more of an industry where people really want to enjoy working with you, and they want to have an environment where you are contributing to the joy and the good experience of the company's culture. So you also want to make sure, this is one way that you really can stand out, It's yes, show that you are a subject matter expert or show that you are knowledgeable in your field, but you also want to have little tidbits all throughout your profile that highlight, yo, you're a cool person. You have a great, beautiful personality, and you're someone that they would even want to interview. Because today it's not that most people aren't lacking skills today. Most people are lacking highlighting that they're more than just their skills, but they're a great, amazing person. And the recruiters will usually want to interview you. All right, so going through this piece right here. So optimizing your profile can lead to unsolicited offers, like landing an interview without even applying. And this is a very real thing. Um, I have
Right.
not I have not applied. I have not since after my first job in tech. I have not gone out of my way to apply to companies anymore. Now I apply to companies, but not in the sense of like these are companies that find me. Recruiters will find me, or people will recommend someone to me. And of course, you still do have to apply, even if they come to you and say we want to hire you. It still is a part of their process that you still have to actually apply. They need that information in their records, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, you have a really great optimized LinkedIn. You don't necessarily have to go out of your way to apply to companies anymore. Now, I believe you still should do that. It's important to still do that. But when you, again, one, have an amazing brand, and again, I'll kind of continue on with a couple other pieces. Courtney, I don't let me know if I'm getting ahead of myself in any kind of way and like
That's
stop me.
okay.
Uh,
No,
so
that's all right.
talk about your LinkedIn page. And honestly, all of you that are here right now would love it if you would pull up LinkedIn even on your phone. So you can look through it as we're talking about these different pieces. So you're not just hearing it, but you're visibly able to look at your profile and see what tweaks and adjustments to make. But
Yeah.
literally going through your LinkedIn profile, next thing is your About Me section. Now, most people's About Me sections are incredibly cliche, where it starts off, it's like, I'm a professional XYZ, or I'm a driven, hardworking, blah, 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 blah. I'm a knowledgeable, experienced. It's all the exact same. Now, again, this is the norm, but you don't want to be normal. You want to be above average. You want to be abnormal in the best ways possible. So simply put, one great thing to do is to add a hook at the beginning of your About Me section, something that actually throws them off guard, but in a way that draws curiosity. Because I'm going to tell you, majority of recruiters, hiring managers, they want to read your About Me section, but when they do, and as soon as they read the first sentence and it sounds cliche, naturally they just skim through the rest of it. They scan it really quickly, and then they continue moving on. You don't want that. You want them to be hooked at the beginning, and you want them to read through it so that they're investing even more time in getting to know who you are. But that being said, getting to know who you are isn't necessarily getting to know your skills or your knowledge, but it's truly getting to know you. You want to create an emotional connection or pique their interest with you. So a hack that I have, and I use this hack very often, is leveraging AI tools. So simply put, you can take your current About Me section, run it through some type of AI platform, Gemini, ChatGPT, whichever you prefer, and add in there other things about who you are, things about what you like to do that are very interesting. Maybe you like to travel a lot. Maybe you have some interesting, really incredible experience that rocked you at your core and transformed your life and sent you on a different trajectory. You want to add those things and then tell that generative AI platform, hey, this is for a LinkedIn About Me section. Can you update my About Me section, but include this additional information as well? Make the About Me section interesting, unique. Add a little humor in there. Don't make it too corny. Add a little humor in there so that way it's a good read. But also make sure you put a hook at the beginning that really catches the recruiter or hiring manager off guard and draws their curiosity to make them want to read the entire thing. And of course, if you don't like how it is, you can just tell it to reiterate, tell it to make whatever adjustments you think are necessary and add that in there. I cannot tell you the number of times, y'all, I have gotten in interviews and the recruiter would say at the top, at the beginning of the interview, like, oh, dude, like they would bring up something that was in my About Me section. That's what you want. You want them to like you before they even interview you. Because if they like you before they interview you, that's half the battle. Now the rest of the battle is they like you. Now the rest of the battle is you just proving to them, okay, you are competent and you can do the job. And of course, if you do a really great program, like a yellowtail.tech, then that's not going to be a question at all. Like you're going to have more than enough knowledge. You're not going to really even have to have a lot of questions as to what you'll be able to communicate in the role. Um, so from your about me section, let me actually go over this part right here. All right, so um,
So starting with the headline, tell us more because you started about talking about the hook of the page. So tell us more about the headline from top to bottom. What should job seekers include in their headline?
so my recommendation when it comes to the headline, of course, one thing that's pretty standard is, of course, the role that you are either in or what you are skilled at. So, meaning that again, if someone's a Linux admin or Linux administrator, you want to add Linux administrator. Other things you might want to add in there are you want to include like the top certifications because in the Linux space and the cloud space, certifications are very important. You want to include some of the top certifications that are popular in that space, that are really necessary in that space. Now, I
Right.
want to pause really quickly and actually want to say why it's important to do these things. It's twofold. One, it's important because obviously, as we talked about, if somebody's on your profile, you need to make sure you're branded. So the branding is important, but it's also important because this is something that a lot of people don't know. With many companies, if not most companies and organizations today, they are using their recruiters or HR team are using what's called LinkedIn Recruiter, which is a different version, slightly different version of of LinkedIn, where they're using it as a search engine to find you. Believe it or not, there are recruiters who are actually trying to find you, like you're the person you are, like from your gender, your ethnicity, your background, your culture. They're actually looking to find you. And in there, they use it as a search engine where they filter you. Now, this could be, okay, hey, we're looking to hire a woman for this role. Again, using a Linux admin, hey, a woman. Okay, we also would like it to be a person of color. Okay, cool. We would love it. They need to have this specific certification, this certification. The same way that you filter to find a job, they filter to find you. And you come up with a list of hundreds to thousands of people. Now, where you rank in that list oftentimes is depending on you having those certain keywords, both in your header as well as in your about me section. So that's why it's important for
Absolutely.
you to have certain things listed because it helps you rank higher. Think like this for anyone that's getting a little lost as how I'm explaining this. Think like Google search. When you search yellow brick road on Google, what's going to come up in the first maybe 10 articles? It's going to be something yellow brick road, maybe something with Wizard of Oz and the yellow brick road. Eventually, as you scroll down, maybe even when you go to other tabs, you'll see an article that doesn't mention anything about road. It'll just say yellow bricks, and the article will be about yellow bricks. And you continue scrolling further, then it'll be an article just about the color yellow, nothing with bricks, nothing with roads. And then you'll see an article where it's just about bricks. And then eventually you'll see an article, if you keep going far enough, it doesn't mention anything with yellow bricks or roads. And you're like, what? So it's the exact same way where you rank somewhere in the search, but it's based on the consistency of what you have in your profile. Because just like when you find these other articles that just have brick and road, it's Google it's trying to give you as many options as possible based on what they think you're trying to search for. Now, those
Yeah.
articles, if they're meaning to be about yellow brick road, but they're lacking the word yellow and they just have brick and road, they're going to rank really far down on the list. You don't want to be the article that's just brick road. You want to be the yellow brick road. You want to be first page at least, if not at the very top. So that's why I just wanted to highlight the importance of having these keywords because I don't want anyone to think like, okay, that sounds cute, but what if they're not even coming to my page? Again, when they're using LinkedIn Recruiter, the filter is helping them find you. So that's why you want to make sure you have these things listed. You want to be proud of the things that society oftentimes tells us to be ashamed of. Like if you're a woman, you want to be proud of being a woman. I mean, if you're a man, you want to be proud of being a man. You want to be proud of what makes you unique, your skin color, your background. All of those things are beautiful, and all of those things are desired in this industry as recruiters are looking for diversity in different forms.
Yeah, I completely agree. The consistency is really important. And it also gives you an opportunity to highlight different aspects, not only about yourself, but about your career, right? You might have an opportunity then to talk about different projects that you've worked on, maybe volunteer opportunities that you've been a part of, something else that just kind of sets you apart from everyone else. It just gives you better insight overall, right? And recruiters are people too, so they want to know, right? They want to know more about you. They want to know, what is making you different, what's making you a good culture fit for their company. Absolutely. Great point, Cyrus. So you started talking a little bit about using LinkedIn as a search engine. So tell us more about how LinkedIn can benefit you as a search engine.
Yeah, great. So I talked a second ago about recruiters using it for LinkedIn Recruiter, so to find you. But on the reverse, when it comes to you finding the companies as you finding the companies as well. So let me actually I guess go back to this specifically. So did you want me to, Courtney, talk about, I guess, to double down or give more information about recruiters finding you through LinkedIn Recruiter, or more about the job seeker finding the jobs that they're maybe a top candidate for through them searching? Which one would you want me to kind of highlight or talk about more right now?
I think we pretty well covered about how recruiters utilize LinkedIn. Kind of the key points of that they can filter by job title, skills, location, and then some of the other demographic items that Cyrus mentioned as well. So keeping that consistency throughout your LinkedIn profile is going to be really helpful. And also, just how LinkedIn Recruiter is a tool overall, right? So recruiters are utilizing that to filter through a lot of different candidates. So even if you do submit an application, they might be going right to your LinkedIn page to get some more information about you or even reach out to you on LinkedIn directly. So I know you mentioned that you've had quite a few recruiters reach out to you on LinkedIn too. So yeah, if you want to go ahead and jump into how job seekers can utilize LinkedIn as a search engine for sure.
Yeah, great. And to highlight something that Courtney said, y'all, when she said recruiters love to look at your LinkedIn, recruiters on average between LinkedIn and your resume, they spend more time looking at your LinkedIn than your resume. A report came out.
Especially in tech.
Yes, especially in tech,
Yeah.
because professionals in general enjoy LinkedIn. People in tech feel like LinkedIn is theirs. They're like, this is our thing. So they
Yep.
feel about that, and they kind of feel that same way about Twitter as well. But LinkedIn for people in tech is like the platform if you're in the tech industry. So
Absolutely.
I mentioned I was all these tech networking events I go to. No one asked me for my Instagram. They asked me for my. They're like, hey, what's your LinkedIn? What's your LinkedIn? And so to that point, recruiters on average spend about 3 to 8 seconds looking at your resume. They spend significantly more time checking out your LinkedIn. So again, your resume is deeply important, but your LinkedIn is what's called a dynamic resume, where it's like a living resume where usually there should be activity, there should be things going on. Now, getting into the job search, how you should use LinkedIn for your job search. So typically speaking, and y'all let me know. I want to hear a little bit from y'all in the chat. uh, Let us know, like, how do you find jobs on LinkedIn? Like specifically top to bottom, what is your flow? Are you just typing in the title of the role that you want a job for, and then you're just kind of scrolling through and applying to those companies? Are you using Easy Apply? What are you doing exactly? We definitely want to know from y'all to see like what's happening. So maybe we could even bounce off of some of the things you're saying to give you some additional feedback. That being said, when you are using LinkedIn to search for a job, as I mentioned before, so first off, in your settings, you want to let LinkedIn know what type of job you're looking for. Because again, it's an algorithm type of platform. You want to let it know, hey, I'm a cloud engineer, cybersecurity, whatever. I'm looking to get a job like this. You want to let it know that because it'll help you find more of those jobs. It'll present more of those jobs to you. Anyway, when you go into apply, or you go looking for jobs, of course, you want to type the different role in. Uh, Also, you want to have a list of different ways that role could be titled. Don't limit yourself to just one specific title to the role, because some companies will have different variations of titles. So you might pull up a job and you might think, oh man, only 8,000 companies in the US are hiring for this role right now. But if you retweak the title, you'll see an additional 6,000 companies that just have it titled differently. Either way,
Yeah.
when you pull up the job to search for that, you want to also use the filter. platforms like LinkedIn, platforms, other platforms that are, job searching platforms, most of them have filters. Speaking about LinkedIn, the way you want to leverage the filter is not just the kind of job or the not just the type of job you want, but also you want to look at industries as well. So now what does that mean? I know someone here in the chat is a teacher. Courtney called that out earlier. Now, I'm not saying you need to limit yourself to these industries, but you might want to like put a lot of focus on these. So if someone's a teacher, you might want to look into industries or companies that have some type of technology like ed tech or technology that's benefiting the educational system to some capacity. And then that's honestly broad. That could be benefiting, it could be education for lawyers. It could be a SaaS product that's giving some type of education or something to help lawyers or realtors, or I mean, the list honestly goes on and on. But you want to look for, in that example, ed tech companies, or let's say you've worked at banks or you've worked at, anything that's relating to like finances. You might want to look for fintech companies, or you want to look in the financial space, healthcare industry, medical. The list really goes on and on, but you want to use the filter to find these types of jobs. If someone said, I'm a real estate agent, yeah, you might want to look into prop tech or property technology types of companies. Now, what's a property technology company? I'm not even in that space, but I could think of Zillow. Zillow is a prop tech type of business, and there are many others that are like that are out there. Ring is technically like a bit of a prop tech technology in terms of it being like a doorbell thing. And again, these are technology businesses. Anyway, you want to use the filter to find the industry that you have some domain expertise in. So again, you're going to leverage your transferable skills as well. So either look at things that are for your transferable skills or your domain expertise, preferably both, because this is what really makes you stand out. The most basic thing you need for anyone to even take you serious is the knowledge. So again, having knowledge, things like what you'll get from Yellowtail.tech is going to give you that knowledge, make you superior when it comes to knowledge. But the thing that'll make you stand out and make you a top candidate, so you're already qualified for these jobs, but what makes you a top candidate, what makes you stand out from other applicants, is you also being able to speak to your transferable skills or your domain expertise. So to the real estate agent, let's say you apply, you're applying to Zillow, like the example I gave. So you apply to Zillow. The fact that your resume and your LinkedIn can speak to your background in that market, in that industry, in that space, the fact that when you speak to the recruiter, the hiring manager, and I'm talking about before the interview, we're going to get to that in a second. When you speak to them before the interview, and especially during the interview, you want to highlight to them that transferable skill and or domain expertise. So what does that look like? So you use the search to filter to find companies that you're like, yo, I'm a top candidate for these types of companies. I don't just have the knowledge, I have the background, all of those different pieces that makes me a perfect fit for them. This should give you a level of confidence, almost arrogance, where you're like, yo, I know that I'm a top candidate for this role. When you apply to the companies, actually, even before applying, one of the things that's really important is for you all to track what you're doing. Whether we're talking fitness, whether we're talking finances, the people that are the most fit and or the people that have the best finances, they usually have some form of tracking, budgeting. They are looking over what they're doing. The same thing is like this when we're talking about the job search. Simply put, you having a tracker sheet. And there are tracker sheets that are out there. I had made my own when I was getting in the industry. I wish I had known that some of them had already existed. But either way, because I'm really terrible at spreadsheets, but I did a spreadsheet and it worked. Hey, it worked. But you want to have a spreadsheet because you want to keep a track and you want to have a goal. Like, okay, am I going to apply to 5 companies today or per day? Or am I going to apply between 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. every day? Either way, you want to have some type of dedicated flow that you can commit yourself to. Because when you're all over the place, trust me, it's gonna show. It's gonna show both in terms of the results that you're getting as well as the mental stress you'll have. But when you actually have like a schedule and have these things organized, it feels much cleaner, much better. But when you go and you actually apply to the company, following applying to the company, and let me know you all what you all do. I see you all put some comments in here. We're going to get to these in a minute.
Yeah,
But
so we have a couple different approaches here. A couple about searching different titles, utilizing filters. Someone said that they are setting up job notifications as well. Um, Filtering by title, location, full time, direct hire, remote. Yeah, a couple different approaches in the chat.
so one thing we want to be careful of. So I love that y'all are using. Seems like most of you are using some of these filters. One thing you also want to be careful of. You don't want to filter yourself out of opportunities. So you don't want to use the filter so much and get so granular that you miss out on things that you could have. Now, what does that mean? If you're filtering for location, that might not be the best thing because for a couple reasons. One, you want to make sure you're open to remote, because a lot of the companies, of course, are despite what the news is saying, the majority of tech companies are still remote. They're still hiring for remote. So that's one piece. The other piece is that sometimes tech companies, I mean, they're human, they're people. They can make a mistake on a listing. They could say it's for people in Houston, or they're only hiring for people in Houston. Now, of course, if in their description it says that, that's one thing. But many times they could have something that's clicked or that's selected that's wrong. Of course, again, you want to, like, if we're talking about like location wise, and you want to work remote, you want to lean into remote, but you definitely don't, you want to be open. In my opinion, you should be open to roles that are in your city as well. But make sure that you don't just limit it to things that are your city, is what I'm saying. You want to be open to potentially other opportunities that could end up being remote. And also same thing with salary. I would encourage you to not filter salary. Again, the reason why, they could have something listed in there that's not accurate. They could have, and then also you talk about negotiating. Many times you can negotiate something that's different. So always be very careful, because again, many times I've been in interviews where there was something that they had listed and I thought I wasn't going to get the job, or I thought it wasn't going to work out. And then I've literally heard hiring managers say, I don't know why that's on the posting. And I'm talking about billion-dollar tech companies where they say, yeah, I don't know why that's listed. That's not a requirement, or that's not even like what we're looking for specifically. And so again, you want to be careful. Like, you want to respect what they have listed, but you don't always want to just say, okay, that's 100% exactly what they want and what they need. Same thing sometimes goes for title or ranking. Or sometimes they can say they need a senior or a certain level of a person, and that's not entirely true. So again, I could talk a lot more about that, but let's focus on, instead of speaking about like the why, let's just kind of get more into what we're discussing. So after you apply to the company, and I see a lot of you mentioning, a couple of you at least mentioned that you send out connection requests to people at the company. That's a great thing to do. I love that you're doing that. To double down or be a little bit more specific as to what you should be doing with that. So after you apply to the company, you definitely want to go to the company's page on LinkedIn, go to the people's tab that they have, and then you want to search up the recruiters. When you search up the recruiters, you want to try to pay attention to the titles of the recruiters, because let's say you're applying for a technical role. Many times they'll have it listed that there's a technical recruiter, or there's a recruiter for DEI, or there's a recruiter, they'll say, I'm the recruiter of this thing. You want to try to find that specific recruiter, because if you don't find that recruiter, then many times it'll become a game of telephone where one recruiter has to contact another recruiter, which is still good. But of course, that's not as best as you going directly to the person you need to go to. So don't just send out a connection request to them. My suggestion would be to send a connection request to one or two of those recruiters, but also to one or two people that look like they could be the hiring manager, or look as if they could be working within that same department or same team. Now, this isn't just good because you're trying to get a job at that company. This also benefits you for later in the future, because even if you don't end up at that company, you'll be growing your network within that industry or that space, to where later on there could be an opportunity either at that company or at another company that one of those people you connected with ends up working at. So you don't just think now, you also have to think like long term. But anyway, you send out those connections, and then you have a templated message, because obviously, we're short on time. a templated message where, simply put, you reach out to that recruiter and you let them know, hey, first off, you ask them how they're doing. Because one thing that recruiters oftentimes complain about, and sometimes they don't respond to people when this happens, is that people just reach out to them and say, hey, I applied to your job. Can you look at my resume? And they're like, man, can you at least ask me how am I doing or greet me like a human? So you at least want to greet them, ask them how they're doing. And then from there, let them know, hey, look, I just applied to this specific role within your company. And I am confident that I am a top candidate for this role because of blank skill set that you've gotten from either blank college or that you've gotten from, in this example, Yellowtail.tech. Like, I have this knowledge and experience with this specific key certification that's necessary. But also, more importantly, or just as important, I have this specific background that relates directly to your industry. So you want to highlight those pieces and let them know, hey, I believe it will be a missed opportunity if we at least don't have like an interview, or to say it in a nicer way, I believe it will be a great opportunity if we at least connect on an interview. And then let them know, if you also, if you're not the person I should be reaching out to, I apologize if this is bothering you. Could you please direct me to the right person I should talk to? That way, you at least follow it up with letting them know that if they're not the right person, you've opened them up to saying, oh, yeah, well, it's actually this person you should reach out to. And in many occasions, they'll just say, you know what, I'm going to just connect you to that recruiter right now. And they'll set up a connection in the DMs. So that's something you definitely want to make sure that you do. And of course, always add these things into your spreadsheet. I'm going to go ahead and pause there because there's a lot more we could talk about, but we have a certain amount of time. So I want to kind of pause and let Courtney continue to drive.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So, yeah, I think that, reaching out to recruiters is a great transition to talking about content, right? So reaching out to recruiters is a good starting point, but then what do recruiters see when they see your page, right? So what kind of content should job seekers be posting or making for their LinkedIn page? And what's the best way to leverage their content for their job search?
Wonderful. Yeah, that actually is a wonderful time. So one, now this highlights the importance of having your page branded, like we just mentioned before. So because now when the recruiter hiring manager, when they go to click on your page, go to your because they're going to look at your page and your profile 9 times out of 10 in this example before they're going to see your resume. So they're going to look at your page. When they look at your page, if you don't have yourself branded as what you just applied to, again, now they're thinking like, okay, do we want to interview you or do we want to interview the 15 other people who look more like what they just applied to? Because again, it's all about them finding the top candidate because it makes them look good. So one, that, like we talked about earlier, make sure you have yourself branded. That also includes like your job history before. And what I mean by that is, and I want to iterate this part for you, is that even if, let's say because oftentimes people are like, oh, well, I've never done, even though I've done this program where I've learned Linux, I don't have a background specifically in Linux. One simple thing you can do is take whatever your work history was, all the bullet points you have for the job that you had before, take those bullet points, give it to a generative AI platform and say, hey, I'm applying to be a cloud engineer or a solutions architect, or I'm applying for this thing, or I'm applying within this industry. Can you reword some of my bullet points of tasks or duties or responsibilities? Can you reword it in a way where it sounds more similar to that specific industry? Now, not for it to lie and say that you did that specific industry or job, but just to, again, to subconsciously highlight to the recruiter hiring manager who's reading it, where they're like, man, it kind of sounds like they've already, and again, it's a subconscious thing where it's really that they're like, okay, I get that, yeah, you worked at McDonald's and that's not technically this thing, but the way that you worded your task highlights that you understand this industry right now. You understand this job. So that's one thing. One other thing I wanted to mention about your LinkedIn page. And it's good to do the same thing to your resume, by the way, as well. Anyway, so to your page, things that you should make sure you're posting on your page. Because one thing, and y'all let me know in the chat, y'all know it's pretty common. The number one thing that I see when I look at people's LinkedIn pages in terms of what they're posting is one of two things. Either it's nothing or they post something once every 4 or 5 months, or it's a lot of reposts where they're just reposting other people that are showing their knowledge. And the thing about reposting, see, LinkedIn is not like Instagram. Instagram and other social media platforms, you technically could just be a person that's reposting other people's videos and people know who you are. Someone at least said, I'm a reposter. Yeah, I'm a reposter. Hey, look, hey, that's a lot of people. So this is a normal thing. And that's why we're here, y'all. That's why we are here right
We're
now.
happy to see you owned it.
Exactly.
The first step is admitting it.
Oh,
So
I was about to say that. Literally, literally. So,
yes.
so when you repost on LinkedIn, all it's saying or all it's communicating is, okay, you like information from people that know their stuff, but that doesn't really mean you know your stuff. So you want to make sure you're posting your own things. I'm going to be real. I'm going to say something I didn't even plan on saying. Steal people's content. Like if someone is posting something and you're like, oh, this is good, this is juicy. Now I'm not saying like screenshot it and remove their name, but I'm saying if someone highlights something, whether it's a video or it's a caption, take it, but make your own tweaks to it. Add something to it, a different twist. Something that overall you want to be posting content, preferably original, but you want to overall be posting content that is highlighting you as a subject matter expert. Now, this is good for two reasons. This is good because, well, for the same reason, but it's good in kind of two different ways. So one way it's good is because first off, like we were talking about, when you're applying to these companies and the recruiters come and look at your page and they look at some of the things you're posting, they're like, oh yeah, you're knowledgeable. You really know this industry. Because it's one thing anyone can copy and paste certain information on a resume or even certain things in the about me section or a header. But when you're posting, again, dynamic, like you're actively showcasing your knowledge, you're highlighting to them, it's almost like they're being able to interview you and screen you before an interview where they're like, oh, you clearly know your stuff. You clearly know your stuff. We need to go ahead and interview you and hopefully get you into our company. So you want to post knowledge, but this is the other piece I would add to it. It's best to post knowledge in a way that's entertaining. Now, the reason why is, again, it shows that you're likable and it encourages people to want to read it or pay attention to what you're talking about. And even more importantly, for them to share it. Now, this is where we get into the sauce. Now, I just mentioned one benefit of posting is because when those recruiters and they come and look at your page, they'll realize that you're a subject matter expert. Other reason, and this is probably just as important, if not more important, is when people reshare your content. It's now you're the person whose content is getting shared. You're the subject matter expert, and everyone is seeing your name. They're seeing who you are, and understand when recruiters, hiring managers, or even sometimes people that are just in that team or that department, when they know that they're hiring for a certain role and they see this content on LinkedIn, they're like, yo, who is this person? We're trying to hire someone like this. Man, let's go ahead and contact this person and hit this person up. So someone said, Shonda said, here I am using LinkedIn as Indeed. Exactly. That's why LinkedIn is the force that it is, because it's a real social media platform that's a job board as well. So you definitely want to use it in this sense. Someone once said on my podcast, someone said Instagram is for the show, LinkedIn is for the dough. And that is very true. It's a lot of people out here that are trying to get sponsored by companies to make content on Instagram. And it's like, yo, even if you get a great sponsorship deal from a company, if it's a $5,000 sponsorship deal, okay, that's cool. But what's better is to post content on a platform where you can get six-figure careers and high-paying jobs. That's a lot better than a $5,000 sponsorship that you get one time or you get 2 times a year. So definitely use LinkedIn, leverage it in this way. Now, when I talk about entertaining content that's also educational, or someone said earlier, intercational. You said somebody said something that I thought was pretty cool. Oh, edutainment. Yeah, that's good. That's good. At least edutainment. Yeah, when you're posting edutainment, entertainment can look different depending on the person. Like when I got in the industry, the reason why I was able to scale so fast, I started posting content on LinkedIn. I don't post this type of content anymore on LinkedIn, but the content I was posting, I would take my comedy content, because y'all know I make anyone who follows me here, you know I make a lot of goofy content on Instagram. I would take that content from Instagram. I would change the caption on the screen. Like, let's say the caption was something about, hey, you can make a lot of money, or I'm making a lot of money now working in tech, whatever, something silly. I wouldn't post something on LinkedIn saying, oh, I'm in tech, I make a lot of money now, because that looks weird on LinkedIn. I would take the exact same funny video, post it, but I would change the caption and make the caption something related to my specific job in tech. And it was always highlighting me as both a good culture fit, because I'm fine with laughing at myself, but it also would highlight my knowledge and experience in the industry. Even though I only had one job at the time when I started doing this, the number of DMs I was getting from recruiters were insane. And I'm going to say this, it's going to sound crazy to some of you. I started ignoring recruiters like for a while, because I was like, yo, I'm tired of looking into, I'm tired of looking at different offers, and I'm like, I just got sick and tired of it. And I honestly, I started saying numbers that I felt like no one would hire me for. I'm like, oh, there's no way they're going to say yes to this number. And it was a way just to kind of ward them off. And many occasions, it ended up being part of the reason why I ended up in other opportunities, because they said yes to what I requested. So anyway, so you want to post this knowledge because it takes it from you applying to companies, and to where now you will find people sharing your content, even if they're not sharing it, if they're just engaging with your content. Let me ask you all this. For those of you that actually like get on LinkedIn from time to time and you scroll through your home feed, and you can even do this right now. How often is it that you see a post from someone you don't even follow or you're not even connected to on LinkedIn? Because it'll say someone you are connected to liked that post, or someone you are connected to commented on that post. Yeah, exactly. Every 3 or 4 posts probably. Exactly. Yeah, thank y'all. Thank y'all for the feedback. Alex says all the time. Now, this is great because this highlights to you how people don't even have to share your content. If they just engage with your content, you automatically get the opportunity to be exposed to people who are connected to them, the recruiters that are connected to them, hiring managers, other people that work in those teams and those departments. Literally. So it goes beyond people sharing you to, if they're just interacting or engaging, you are getting exposure to their organizations. Again, this is why you connecting with the people in that company is good, even beyond the recruiters. Because again, if they're in that industry, like let's say you're connected with people at a company where they're Linux, they're cloud, they're systems engineer, whatever. And even if, let's say, you apply to the company, you get no one's responding back, whatever, or you get a rejection, anything like that, they're going to want to engage with your content, because your content is something they understand, because they're in the exact same industry. So they'll engage with your content. And now this allows you to be seen from the recruiters and hiring managers. And to that point, believe it or not, every time you get a rejection, it doesn't always mean you're truly rejected from the company. But that's another topic. If we have time, we'll transition into that later. But for now, going back to the edutainment part, you always want to mix your content with something that either maybe it has a bit of humor to it, or it's something that is that's catching people's attention. Maybe it's a video of you with your tripod set up, and it's just recording you on your laptop, even if you're fake typing, and you could have text appear on the screen that says something about your niche. You can post content that's even controversial, and it's going to invite debate. Now nothing that's like, that's going to make you look bad, but, like someone who's in I'm from the tech sales side of the industry. People always argue, HubSpot versus Salesforce, like which CRM is the best. You could put up a post saying, hey, controversial take, I believe HubSpot's better because of XYZ, XYZ. What do you think about that? Oh, you just ignited a war. People are going to jump in, but guess what? Not only are you being exposed now, but you didn't say anything bad. But on top of that, you highlighted specifically why you believe HubSpot is better, which showcases that you have knowledge and experience of both CRMs, and you can detect the differences and nuances of each platform. Boom, you look good. It's like, whoa, who is this person? So that's always a great thing. The other wonderful thing about LinkedIn and posting, it's not like having a bunch of followers on Instagram or social media is a weird thing, because people on social media, they usually gravitate towards you because you have a lot of followers. On LinkedIn, it doesn't matter really how many followers and connections you have. Like, you want to have connections, you want to have good connections, but no one's like, oh, you're not popular, so we don't want to reshare your content, or we don't want to engage with your content, or we don't want to interview you. It's truly about what you know and what you can communicate that you know, that draws a lot of attention and eyeballs to you. So definitely post content that's educational, but always have some form of entertainment to hook people and get them to engage.
Thank you so much for those insights, Cyrus. I do want to take a chance to go over some of the questions that we have in the chat. So someone posted a question about transferable skills, which links really well to another question that was asked. So I'm going to kind of join them together. Someone was asking about how to speak to your transferable skills. And then also there was a secondary question about, is it okay to configure your LinkedIn page to align with your desired job if you're not currently working in that field? So I'm going to answer that second one if you're okay with that first. So yeah, definitely you want to align your LinkedIn with the role that you are seeking, right? You want to embrace that new title. You want to really own it and really make it the identity of your LinkedIn page. And then incorporating the transferable skills, which Cyrus, you did a great job talking about transferable skills earlier. So if you want to go ahead and chime in on that piece and how you can use those transferable skills on your LinkedIn page, even if you're not working in the field.
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of using your transferable skills on your LinkedIn page, so one, I mean, you can add it to your About Me section, like we were mentioning before, when you are updating your About Me section to where it's not, cliche. You can not just mention the work that you've done, but again, have it be reworded in a way where honestly you can communicate it in your About Me section. And I'll actually use myself as an example. I don't like using myself too often as an example, but in this instance, I can give you two examples, one from me and one from a colleague of mine where her post went viral. So I use my About Me section, and then I'll use a post that a colleague of mine did that went viral, and it definitely got her the job that she's at. So in my About Me section, unless I've updated it since then, but usually I would still do this. No, I've updated it since then. So when my About Me section was about being a sales engineer, what I did, so sales engineers would do this thing called demoing, where it's a very detailed presentation of your company's technology, blah, 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 whatever. My background was a poet. Initially, I got popular on social media because I was traveling and doing poetry, spoken word at different events. I communicated in my About Me section my background as a poet, because that was the majority of my working career was being a poet. And so I communicated how my background in poetry and spoken word makes me perfect for being a solutions engineer. And I highlighted the similarities, and I highlighted me, companies, or not companies, but churches and colleges booking me and asking me to write a poem on a specific topic. And I had to study that topic and learn it top to bottom and become an expert of that topic. And then I had to creatively weave that into an entertaining poem that could hook the audience and basically give the audience the response that they wanted. And I communicated how that's exactly what a solutions engineer was doing. It's like, hey, it's, I'm crafting this information from the company. They're telling me to create this thing that's specific to this company, and I have to craft it in such a way, and I have to make it hook, and I have to make it entertaining. I have to do this to get the person to sign up for our company's software instead of our competitors. And that was something that recruiters and people brought up during the interview. They're like, man, like, I never thought of poetry in that way that it suits this. But let me give a friend of mine, an example of a friend of mine, a post that she put up that's pinned to her page now, where she highlighted, she literally did a side-by-side post of how being in health, like how her background in being a physical therapist made her a perfect fit for the current role that she was looking to get in tech. And it was literally a comparison, like this specific thing and then this specific thing. And even though they were two entirely different things, the way that it was worded, it was like, man, you know what? They do sound pretty similar. So you have transferable skills. It's just about how to communicate those things. Now, the great thing that you have that I didn't have at the time and she didn't have at the time is you have generative AI, where you don't have to do the thinking or the heavy lifting when it comes to this. You can just plug it in there. And then, of course, you at least want to double check and say, okay, does this make sense? Is this legitimate? Make your own human tweaks to it so you're not entirely relying on it. But you definitely can leverage that without you having to like break your brain trying to think about how to reword everything yourself. So you have it listed in your About Me section, have it listed in your within your experience or your work history, going back to the bullet points I mentioned before, have it listed there, and as well as on your resume. Your resume and your LinkedIn should look synonymous. They should look like the exact same thing, parallel wise.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely highlighting the transferable skills in both places is really important. Another thing that I encourage you to do if you're kind of hitting a wall with where the transferable skills play in, if it really is a drastic difference between what you're doing now and the transition into tech, is ask ChatGPT or whatever AI platform that you're utilizing, what do these two roles have in common? And I'm sure you will come up with quite a few.
That's
Um,
good.
one thing I would like to highlight too is, in tech, um, really strong communication skills are not only extremely important, but often extremely underestimated. It's probably one of the biggest things that I coach on in interview coaching is the soft skills, communication skills, presentation skills, public speaking skills, right? You have to work with clients. You need to be prepared to be able to speak with clients. So if you are in a role right now that requires strong communication, which is just about anything, uh, dig a little deeper. Strong communication is just one piece of it. What does that look like for you? And how does that transition into tech and work into the role that you're applying to? I think we've gotten to most of the questions in the chat. If you guys do have additional questions, you can feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. But I also want to take a couple minutes to just talk some more about Yellowtail.tech. Before I jump into that, Cyrus, do you have any other final points you wanted to touch on tonight?
Um, no other final points. I mean, there's a few other things that we could talk about, but literally this information, what we talked through is the thing that can get you there. Especially the last piece that Courtney was just talking about. That communication piece is so important. So important.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And it's critical in your interview process too, right? So if you're not feeling strong with your communication skills, now is a great time to boost it. And LinkedIn is a great way to practice that written communication through your posts and your content as well. So as I mentioned earlier, I am the career success lead with Yellowtail Tech, and we are a tech training program. So there's a couple of things that we've talked about in our presentation tonight that we also incorporate into the Yellowtail Tech program. We do training for Linux and cloud, and we also offer an apprenticeship program with our Linux and cloud program. So you complete a project-based apprenticeship to really get the hands-on experience that's required. And something we talk about a lot in your apprenticeship is how to post on LinkedIn, how to utilize your apprenticeship to post about the projects that you're working on in your apprenticeship. What's the knowledge that you are building through the program? So if you are currently in a tech program, that's another tip. As you're doing your professional development and your skill development, post about the new things that you're learning. You all are attending this webinar. You have an opportunity to post a couple takeaways tonight about, what did you get from us tonight? It shows that you're engaging with other people in tech and shows the professional development as well. So that's a lot of what we talk about in our career success mentorship as well. I work with all of our apprentices and support them in building their resumes, developing their LinkedIn, submitting their job applications, finding roles to apply to, and of course, interview skills as well so they can get to the offer. We do have all of our apprentices complete mock interviews as well so that you're able to build those skills and really get a feel for it before you're just kind of thrown into a technical interview. As Cyrus and I know very well, technical interviews are very different than traditional interviews often, and sometimes you really don't know what you're going to get, right? Sometimes it's very soft skills focused, sometimes it's very technical skills focused, sometimes it's a mixture of both. So we like to prepare you in both areas. So I encourage you guys all to go ahead and scan the QR code and book a 10-minute call so that we can get you started in learning about Yellowtail Tech and get you into a program. And as I mentioned earlier, we really help to support our students along the process. So you have support from the beginning to the very end and all the way into job search with your career support as well. Okay. Thank you so much for attending our webinar this evening. Please feel free to connect with us through social media as well. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us directly. Okay. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, Cyrus.
This is great. And yeah, for any of you all, because I know sometimes you all have a tough time reaching me. I try to do my best job in inbox. But honestly, like a lot of you, again, she was talking earlier, like over the career guidance part within Yellowtail Tech. She's a great resource to reach out to, even just to ask her other questions in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Cyrus.
Yeah, definitely, Courtney. All right, y'all. Yo, this was great. It's
Uh,
a lot of fun. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
yeah, thanks for joining us. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.